What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by co-host Matt Llewellyn, and today we are going to be discussing the future of Richard Sherman. Matt, he seems to think that the writing's on the wall. He's already out the building after this season. Do you think that that's likely what's going to happen?
I would say it's probably a good bet, but on the other hand, he played so badly this past week that, he might end up staying just because nobody's going to pay him what he probably wants to make. And I know that, the stats are he gave up 3 catches for 35 yards or whatever, but he had a huge penalty. One of those catches was a touchdown that was just like a complete busted coverage. And, I guess that was supposed to be Tarvarius Moore over the top, but like, it has to be better. And, particularly on that play that Sherman got the penalty, he got beat by, I think it was against Stephon Diggs, and Diggs did a double move and was going to run by him, and Sherman grabbed him because he was completely out of position. And then he turned as he grabbed him and ran, and then Diggs made another move to stop, and then Sherman ran like 15 yards past him. It was one of the ugliest, most unathletic piece of cornerback play that I've seen. And, that's a thing with Sherman is that he's not necessarily an elite athlete. He has an elite football mind, and his football IQ is second to none. That's for sure. But I think he still thinks that he's an elite guy. And it's clear ever since the NFC Championship game last year that wasn't the case, that those lower body injuries have slowed down and sapped whatever athleticism that he did have and have made him susceptible to really elite wide receivers. And I mean, even the best cornerbacks are susceptible to elite wide receivers. But when you're starting to age and you're getting older, we saw it with Darrelle Revis. Darrelle Revis fell off a cliff. He was shut down, Revis Island, and then all of a sudden he was giving up big play after big play after big play, and then he was gone out of the league. And I think that's kind of where Sherman's headed. So I don't think he's going to get a big deal elsewhere. And so in that case, if he wants to stick around for a discount, I'm sure the team would keep him here just because he's such a good leader. But I think his days as an elite cornerback are over.
And I feel like, unfortunately, that's kind of the trajectory of elite corners. It's just like you're an elite corner until one day you're not. And you find out really, really quickly, like, oh, you don't have it like that anymore. You can get beat really quickly. And I think that's where Sherm is. And luckily for him, I will say it kind of happened a little slower just because of his injury. And I feel like when he came to San Francisco, the expectation wasn't as high. I think they knew they were getting kind of a discounted version of him, especially coming off that torn Achilles. And then, I think he lived a lot off of his reputation. For most of last year, it was just nobody threw at him. And I think even Joe Fan tweeted out at one point, when are teams going to realize, like, you can throw at this guy? It's not the same Sherman from, Seattle, from the Legion of Boom days. And I think teams are finally starting to figure that out. And, I know he's been out for most of the season, but since he's been back the couple of games, he's getting tested. And I think that I jokingly said in the chat before when he came out saying, I think the writing's on the wall, basically, I'm going to be gone after this year. And I jokingly said Monday night, he must have known how this game was going to go because there's no way he comes back unless, like you said, it's for a discounted rate, unfortunately. And we did talk about this in the recap live stream. He's discussed a move to safety, but he puts the, in air quotes, when he's ready for it at that point at the end of his career. I don't know if he feels like he's at the end of his career, so he might still want to play corner for a couple of more years before he does transition. I think that the 49ers would be why. I don't want to say wise. I think they'd benefit from having him back at a reduced role. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily want to see him as the main starting corner next year again, opposite of Jason Verrett, if they're able to bring him back. I think he will start to pose as a liability for them. And we saw that Monday night, just like you brought up. Would you say, like, they do propose that he comes back and he wants to make the transition to safety? Is that something you would be open to?
Yeah, I mean, again, his football IQ is second to none. And if he can play that single high role that, the cover three they want to play or whatever, and he can be that ball hawk, that center fielder, he's really good at judging where the quarterback wants to go with the ball. And if he's standing back there with a bird's eye view and can see everything developing, then you're talking about maybe his athleticism isn't such an issue because he can kind of read and react to where the play is going to go in a way that he doesn't have to be this, 4-3 monster that, corners typically are nowadays. So yeah, I would bring him back as a safety. But again, like you said, is he ready for that role? And knowing what we know about Sherman is, I mean, his ego is second to none. He feels himself, and for good reason. He's had, an arguably a Hall of Fame career at this point. And, I mean, you don't get to be that good without having confidence in yourself. But he needs to have enough self-awareness to know that he's not the guy that he used to be. This isn't the Legion of Boom. This isn't Seattle circa 2012 or whatever. He's going to have to take a step back. He's going to have to adjust his game. I think even he can tell that there are times where, he just can't cover the best in the NFL. And again, there's no shame in that. But he gave up a touchdown to a guy that isn't even a household name, really. So when you're not only getting beat by the elite guys, but you're giving up touchdowns to the mid-level guys, you have to reevaluate. You have to adjust. And that ego crash is hard for a lot of star players. A lot of guys don't end up making it. A lot of them in the middle of their career, they'll be like, I'm going to retire. When I can't do what I can do at this level, I'm going to retire. But inevitably, whether it's in the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NFL, provided that a team wants to sign you, there are people that just hang on a little bit too long. And I don't want to see that for Sherman, but as a cornerback, as an elite cornerback, I think that the time has come that he needs to reevaluate what his career is at this point and maybe move to a safety position where he can extend himself for a couple of years. And there have been examples of people that have done that before. So, I think prime example, Rod Woodson is somebody that played corner early in his career and then transitioned to safety. So it can be done. You just have to be willing to do it. And I don't know at this point if Sherman is.
The thing with the ego, and I know a lot of people like to kind of get down on Sherman for it, is when you do something and you have so much success at it from early on and consistently, it's really hard for you to understand that you're not that person anymore, that you can't do it with as little effort, as previously. So I think it's a rude awakening, and a lot of people, like you said, they just really don't have the mental fortitude to overcome that rude awakening. And that's when you do see guys just retire out of nowhere. You do see guys that kind of just shut down. But I don't think Sherman is that type of person. I think he's smart enough and aware enough to understand he's going through a change in his career. And it really depends on if he's going to – hold on, let this train go by. Three,
it's not really that noticeable, by the way.
It's not? Okay. I never knew. All right. Nice to know. 3, 2, 1. And I think he's at the point in his career where he's going to have to make a decision. Is he willing to continue to play at corner and risk becoming a liability? I think for any corner, but especially one who's been a star corner, a potential Hall of Famer, like you just said, getting embarrassed is like the worst thing that could be done to you. And you saw that in the championship game when Devontae Adams kind of burned him on that deep route. That was like a huge conversation between him. I believe that's what inspired the whole Darrelle Revis, tirade back and forth. Yeah. So I don't think that he wants to go through that again, is my point.
Yeah, but he has been, though, hasn't he? I mean, he still thinks he's the guy this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm not comparing the two because you can't compare cross between sports or whatever. But this is like Michael Jordan when he first took over the Charlotte Hornets and he's going to practice and stuff. And he still thinks that he could play in the NBA. And he's like, at the time he was like 50, When you're an ultimate competitor, you have a hard time letting go. And I think Sherman, yes, he's super intelligent. He's probably top 5 smartest people in the NFL. He's definitely the one who puts himself out there the most and is kind of the public face of intelligent players. He's willing to back up, what he thinks with public statements, but, sometimes that can be overridden by too much competitive spirit, too much competitive juice. And we know that Sherman is the ultimate competitor. I mean, we saw how mad he was with, the whole Crabtree thing. But, he's a guy that loves to compete.
Yep.
So, maybe that's going to prevent him from getting out of his own way. Sometimes you're your own worst enemy. And I'd love to see him at safety because I think it would be a good transition for him. But again, it's that ego and that competitiveness being like, no. I can still play cornerback, and I'm going to show you that I can. Because last year was kind of like the inkling in the championship game and the Super Bowl when Sammy Watkins got him. That's kind of the place where you're like, okay, here's a turning point. Which way is this going to go? And when he comes back, and again, another lower body injury, and again, giving up big plays. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know that he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing too. I don't remember if it was him that spoke on it, but he's getting up there in age, and the body doesn't heal like it used to. It's taking longer for him to recover from these injuries than previously when he would have been back in a couple of weeks. So, and I think they're happening more frequently. I don't think that that's a stretch to say. So, a lot of things factor into this. We'll see if he comes back, but I think that's going to do it for this episode of Niners News. I want to, if you like what you see, show us, hit that like button below. Also, hit that subscribe button. We are very close to our goal of 5 billion subscribers. And drop a comment below. What do you guys think will happen with Richard Sherman? Is he going to come back next year? Will the team have him back? Does he move on to another team? Does he make the transition to safety? Drop your thoughts below.
Go ahead and click the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. Until next time, go Niners.